Hello everybody, I'm here to present the future applications of data in local government and the NHS and how to get there. This is an extended version with bits I couldn't do at the conference. I'm Dylan Roberts, I'm a SOCTIN trustee and I'm doing this presentation under that role, which is to provide hopefully some education and learning to the audience. And obviously I want to be provocative today, so let's go from there. So what are the objectives for today? Understanding why our current world of applications and integrations cannot sustain. Understanding at a high level the world of composable cloud-native data-first applications and how that delivers against our needs. Recognise the transition path from our current state to our future state and identify key actions we should all really take now as CIOs, CDIOs and organisations to prepare for that future world. So we must remember digital data and technology is the means to an end, not the end itself. IT is the means to an end, not the end itself. Therefore, we must be clear and understand what it is we are enabling or contributing to in terms of our wider business strategy, or in this case, public service strategy. You will know that the model of public service delivery is changing, has changed in some places already, and not in others. So instead of the paternalistic delivery model, top down, where local authorities, for instance, or the NHS provide services to citizens or people or patients, we now need to move to the right to a more facilitative leadership approach, where local authorities become the conveners in places and pull different partners together at a community level, at a place-based level, a hyperlocal level, or a service delivery partner level to affect better outcomes overall. The reason for that, as we know, is that the increased demand on services is exponential, and our ability to deliver against that as we go smaller in size as the public sector with the cuts, etc., is we simply cannot sustain with our current model of delivery, and therefore have to change that. And that is a model that's in place in many places: Leeds, Bristol, Glasgow, other places like that, who are moving towards this way of working. What does that mean in reality? I appreciate this is a slide some of you will have seen before from me. I've been using this slide since 2016. This is about Bob, who's a real Yorkshireman with a flat cap. Got that because it's a typical Yorkshireman, as it were. So that's why we went for Bob. But basically, we need to look at Bob as a whole person and find out what matters to him and personalise things around him based on what are better outcomes for him, what matters to him, not from a top-down paternalistic view, seeing Bob in the NHS as a lot of different body parts, deal with him as those separate body parts in a top-down sort of manner. That model on the right is no longer sustainable, and unfortunately that's the model in most cases in most parts of Wales. What that means is that the old IT strategies of the past, those which were inwardly focused on improving service performance, quality, cost and safety, don't cut it anymore. It's not to say we shouldn't be efficient. It's not to say we shouldn't try and consolidate services into single contact centres or move services to online channels or rationalise what we're doing and consolidate what we're doing or automate processes, RPA and all that. It's not to say we shouldn't do that. We should do that, but you can't deliver the new models of local government delivery with these IT strategies. You need to move to the new ones, which are prevalent in many places across the UK now. Some of them I mentioned before, which are more outwardly focused on outcomes. So how do we, from a digital data and tech strategy point of view, deliver better outcomes rather than just services? And the way to do that, of course, is how do you combine the information resources with the digital capabilities and human endeavour across your places, across your communities? And that requires this join up of partnerships. So how do you combine data, for instance, around populations, NHS data, housing data, with digital capabilities that consumers or people themselves might have in their pocket, in their hands, and also how do you then combine the combined capability of human endeavour across our places, which on one end of the spectrum could mean the universities and the like, but at the other end of the spectrum could just mean simply people's families, communities, and all of that. How do you combine those three things to affect better outcomes for Bob, and putting Bob at the centre of that sort of design? How do you do that? Well, this presentation is about the future of applications, and of course, the future of applications as it relates to the context of delivering that outcome. So what we need is digital services that can be personalised around individual citizens, professionals, and communities. Not every person is different, every community is different, so we need to be able to compose services around those particular requirements. We need data which is open and interchangeable across partners and across place. And we need the ability of our users, including citizens and partners, to be able to use the latest technology and advancements ethically, and that includes, for example, AI. So our old legacy application portfolios and integrations support our future needs. No, they do. And what we've got there, as you know, is a spaghetti of different data silos, things which are not joined up. So from a local government point of view, things like civic housing, capital academy, and like. We do need to work to. We need to move away from that 1990s architectures, and we need to move into the 2025s, or the 2020s really. And what we need is to move to the new world of cloud-native composable applications and open data standards. This is a microservices-based architecture. So in this example, what we've got there is lots of separate components which can be combined through an application composition platform to deliver combined services. So mini apps, for instance, that combined can deliver a super app. That's just my words there. And what I mean by that in terms of combined services, there may be a booking is a booking, whether or not you're doing a booking in the NHS, whether you're doing a booking of a squash court, whether you're booking a bulky waste collection. Most of the logic around a booking is similar. Therefore, you could use a reusable service or component which easily combines with others to deliver more holistic solutions. So we've got the ability to personalize around Bob's needs or around a community's needs, whilst at the same time reusing capability to make things more efficient and effective. So the evolving application architecture is the legacy of the past. Disjointed portals and forms, departmental applications, monolith, bespoke, data silos, everything very separate, integration, point-to-point connections, brittle, costly, complex, and of course, in many cases, on-premise infrastructure with vendor-driven upgrade cycles. Whereas in the future world, and by the way, the future world is the world of now in many industries, which I'll come to, is one where services can be orchestrated around particular needs. Services can be composed. So there's reusable bits like payment, scheduling, case management, for instance. Open data standards, data can flow across those different applications, resilient hosting in the cloud, and ultimately the citizen and staff experience is personalized. This paradigm or this way of working is here today. It's already here. It's already there, and it's quite mature and developed in many other industries. In retail, Amazon's a prime one, of course, travel, banking. In fact, government pushed the open banking data standards. People like Mark Brett were involved in the development of that, the open banking standard, which was why all banks, regardless of their competition, have to work together and share common data sets. But similarly, banks, travel, and all of that, they have composable architectures. And in some cases, you've got industries who actually share application components to deliver combined solutions. So the analogy here is that we need to move away, or we will move away from composing individual pieces of music in this scenario. Instead, we've got the ability to compose, to not have to be the expert, the maestro on the left. We can be someone who can take 80% of the different samples that have been delivered or composed before, combine those to deliver new pieces of music. That's the analogy there. We don't need the expertise. And with AI agents and the like, a lot of this can now be automated, and it requires less technical skilled engineering. It does require some, but we'll come on to that. So where do we start? How do we move from the monolithic legacy applications to modern composable applications? Well, the starting point for us, and this is the Socketim unique selling point, of course, is education. As Tony Blair said, education, education, education in 1997. So we need education on cloud-native architectures, composable applications, and the discipline around them. We all need to know the basics of those things, the foundations of those things. We need education on the right DDA operating models to underpin the delivery of value in those new environments. You can't just go out and build that sort of stuff. You need to have an operating model which suits it within your organizations, across your organizations, the right skills, the right capabilities, the right governance. We also need education on the best partners to augment our teams on this journey. We have not got the skills and capabilities in the public sector necessary to move to this world, and we'll struggle to recruit those. So we need to think about how do we partner so we can build and teach our own with good partnerships with good private sector partners. The characteristics of a cloud native architecture, things we need to learn about. I'm not going to go into the detail of these. There is a handout available, and there'll be links at the end of this presentation where you can download it and whatever. But these are the key things you need to know about. You need to know what microservices are, how they work. You need to know especially about containerization, which is one of the value propositions of cloud native developments, right the way to what are common data platforms, what are cloud native AI agents, and what I'm talking about in terms of application composition. You also need to think about and learn about the right operating models. What are they made up of? A lot of these things are already templated, remember. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just take and apply what we're doing. So this is Gartner provides some excellent stuff on operating models. So what's the right operating model for our enterprise's digital ambition? Do we want to have an operating model whereby IT is efficiently run in the back office with a very technical focus, bottom left? Or do we need to be more in the upper quadrant? My belief is that healthcare, local government, public service delivery are digital businesses. I do appreciate a lot of the business leadership in Wales can't really get their heads around that, but it's ultimately something we can start to educate them and enroll them in. What we do need to move towards, and you have to go through process service up to value, in my opinion, we need to be moving in the cloud native world to a value-based operating model. And a template to know that for doing that already exists. And here's a slide which demonstrates how your operating model needs to be as a starting template if you want to be working in a value-optimized information and technology operating model. So just to say, you've got to be clear about what your operating model is, what your skills, your capabilities, your governance, your sourcing, and all that is for your whole organization, not just IT or DDAR, to underpin the way you're working and what you're delivering, your business strategy and your IT strategy. And you've got to have the right capabilities. This is a BCU model. These are the capabilities and skills you need as a minimum to be able to deliver effectively in a value-based operating models. You can see a lot of reds there, which are skills we haven't got that we're looking to bring in. And we look to augment some of those skills with external partners. And this is the area we are developing some of our own people in to be able to build these skills and capabilities. The right frameworks and the right partners, really important. Being educated on this and understanding this. There's a new set of partners. My suggestion is don't partner with your Microsofts, your Googles, and the like. Have them as one of your partners, but not your prime partners. You need to be able to manage and facilitate those partners. They will take you potentially down. They could take you down some bespoke routes, which might be right, but you need to think about that more objectively. So on some of the frameworks that we all know and love, G-Cloud, Digital Outcomes and Specialists, there are other frameworks that you can use. These are examples of the sort of partners that you can use, which I'm sure many of us have used. I've worked with all of these partners in time. They're all ultimately able to provide the skills and capabilities you need for your value-based operating model for delivering cloud-native applications and orchestration. These have got the skills to help you to do that on various different cloud-native platforms. You know, Google Cloud Platform, Amazon, Microsoft. And also steal with pride. There are some great examples across the public sector, and templates exist for how to do this move from old world to new world. This is the auction number care record, something I'm quite proud of, which started off 2018, was it 2019, maybe something like that. But this ultimately is a route towards the old world up to the new world. There's also, work with, engage with vendors and the private sector. Have discussions with them. Appreciate they're on a sales route, but you can get a lot of things. So EY, for instance, this is a reference architecture for integration and in some cases cloud native developments. These are the governance structures you need, the standards you need. You know, this is still with pride. So conclusions and actions for CIOs in this room, or the room of the conference. The move from legacy to composable data-first services is inevitable and it's necessary. If we're going to deliver a paradigm shift in the way we change the business model of local public service delivery to affect better outcomes with the exponential increase in demand that we've got to move more to these cloud-native, data-first type approaches. We've got to learn how to do that, as complex and as daunting as that might be. We need to get educated ASAP what this is, how to do this. I believe local government are the architects of joined up places and therefore should help lead the shaping of these new architectures across the places with their partners. The local government are the conveners. We should be connecting across our network. Use Socketim as the way to try and do that. Socketim can help with education, deep dives, all of that. Socketim is a go-to point for some of this. You just need to ask the question. If we haven't got the answer, we can connect to people who have got the answer. So just a recap of the learning objectives. Understanding why our current world of applications and integration cannot sustain. Hopefully you understand why that is the case. Our legacy applications will not meet our future requirements. Understanding at a high level the world of composable cloud native data first applications. So at a high level, I'm hoping you've understood how applications can be always on, continually integrated, continually delivered, and in particular how they can be composed in a composable way. So we've got reuse as well as personalization and individualization, which is what's required in the future. Recognize the transition path from our current state to our future state. Fine, I'm just going on about education. In the extended version, I'll give you my views, my personal views on some of that, and hopefully identify some key actions for CIOs and CDIOs. There you go, there's your Lego bricks. What do you want to build today is the question. So here's the extended bit. So how have we in Betsy Cadwallader framed and planned this transition? Similar approach being considered in York and Scarborough, similar approach happening across parts of Leeds as well. So first of all, I think the key thing is that it can't be all or nothing. You've got to recognise that you've got the immediate issues of today that need to be sorted. So you need to take a twin track approach. So for instance, in the health board, there's horrendous waiting lists, as you know. You can't just ignore the fact that you're inefficient in the way you deliver services in a paternalistic way. You've got to split your work, take a twin track approach, address some of the things you've got to do today with the future in mind. So sometimes you have to make compromises architecturally in that regard. But remember what your long term is about. So there's that twin track approach. What I use is horizon thinking. I use this particular Carol Shillerby into McKinsey's Three Horizons approach. It's probably worth looking into that, actually. It's as good as anything, really. But fundamentally, this is about how you deliver value, get to your final Horizon 3, a fully cloud-native composable environment, uh, an architectured approach which is about using across the public sector, reusing capabilities and having the digital data and technology to underpin that. That's your ultimate Horizon 3. Horizon 3 is right in the distance, as you can see. So ultimately, you need to make sure you're thinking about the twin track approach. That which you're delivering in Horizon 1 is contributing or putting you in a direction towards Horizon 2 and then Horizon 3. You need to lay out those points. And there are sometimes different routes to doing that. And that's the case in BCU. It's just a way of thinking about how you do things, and it's making sure that you don't do something in Horizon 1 which takes you in a completely different direction. I use the train analogy. If we're on a train trip from Rhyl to London, ultimately, yep, we're okay. The straight route is probably through Milton Keynes and that particular route. Ultimately, we want to make sure that fine, we might want to go via Sheffield, for instance, or we might want to go via Grantham or whatever. We're going in the right sort of direction. We might have to deviate. What we don't want to do is make sure we're going up towards Glasgow. That's the sort of thinking that you need to think about. So these are architectural principles, design principles, and all that you can use to make sure that you're going on that golden route. So yeah, our three horizons, foundations and vision, really important for Horizon 1. Getting very clear, getting people enrolled on this. That's something I found quite difficult. Although we've done board workshops and things like that, it's been quite difficult really to get people's heads around this because they're so busy on the day-to-day in the front line. But anyway, ultimately, that's something to work on to try and enroll people so they understand and want to change their operating models and ways of working. Integration and incremental build. So ultimately, that's how do you put a wrap sometimes around some legacy applications? How do you have some standards in terms of how you do integration and start to move towards a mix of old world and new world? There's the Yorkshire number templates can help with some of that. And then eventually you move towards things which are composed and built from scratch in the new world. If there are particular applications or services which are best to be done in the new world, even if you've got legacy, then look to do that and bring a hybrid environment. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about here, is a hybrid approach. The hybrid approach, again, you have to decide on your big compromises. In the Wales NHS example, I'm pushing hard for a monolith EPR, electronic patient record system. Why am I pushing towards what is ultimately a legacy-based technology? Well, because it will solve, because of the level of risk we've got in the NHS, it will potentially solve 80-85% of our problems. The fact that as a business, we've got such a variation in practice, we need to simplify and standardize our capabilities, our business capabilities, our clinical capabilities, and our practice to deliver better, safer care. Putting in a monolith EPR will address maybe 80-85% of those issues because of the high risk at the moment. But I could set a lot of standards around how we put a wrap around that. So that would be the ideal because of the immediate needs, but recognizing that we're making a big compromise there with a few, but we can think about a different future in mind on that. Really important that we're very clear what our DDAT operating model is, and we're moving up the IT scores. We were very much an asset-based. We're up to project-based and service-based now across all our aspects. That includes data, technology, information governance, etc. We've set strong guide rails, organizational design principles, not just IT ones, organizational ones, standards around APIs, data first and the like, and we've got a bit of a roadmap for how we get to that. And we've also got augmentation partners in to help us to start building these things component by component. But you've got to recognize it's a hybrid world. So we will have legacy plus modular with interoperability with a level of vendor neutrality. That's what we're going to be, that's the world we're working in at the minute. It's a bit of a mix and match, but again, we've got a long-term aim and guide rails in place to make sure we get from Horizon 1, 2 and 3. Horizon 2 for us is to implement a common data platform. Now, the National Data Resource in Wales, that's our go-to. So hopefully working with DHCW in this case, there needs to be a common data platform because of the legacy world that we've got. We've got to start building and propagating use case by use case, I might say, which is really important, the content of one common data platform with standard data models and semantics. Just to be clear, a standard data model might be, name and address, etc., to particular standards. Semantics is what you fill in there. So do you put just numbers in? Do you put postcode? What do you put? So, it's the content of the data. There needs to be governance arrangements and all that. That EY diagram covered a lot of that on how you do that. But the best practice way is to do that use case by use case. Don't try and build it and they will come and build perfection. Find some real problems that people have got and look to fix those problems, but then set the standards and build your data models out like that. So the common data platform is key. Once you've got the common data platform, you've got something you can develop against. Others will say, oh yeah, we just need to develop through an integration infrastructure. Yes, you can do that, develop against integration infrastructure. I do believe there's a lot of benefit for a common data platform, especially when it comes to AI and all of the other different tools you can use on some of the big industry cloud platforms. What's an industry cloud platform? Well, that's a different presentation, really. But in essence, people like Google, and also Google Cloud Platform, there's lots of tools and capabilities on there that you will get as part of the platform, which enable you to interrogate data, enable you to integrate better and take on security and all of that. So it makes sense, in my view, to have data persist, albeit maybe a copy, on online data store. And importantly, and this should have been in Horizon 1, is you should have assessed and understood all your data assets and all your applications, your existing applications. You can apply the time model, tolerate, I forgot what it all stands for, but long and short of it, which are applications that you're going to tolerate, which are you going to get rid of, what's the plan for each one of your legacy applications from a risk-based basis, which ones you need to replace first, and which order would you fix some of those issues. It's important to be very clear about where your starting point is. You need to know where your current state, your starting point is, your as is, before you get to your 2B. Horizon 3 for us, this is more of an outcome-based description because we're nowhere near this. But yeah, what we're after there, which I've described earlier on, is this composable cloud-native ecosystem. Bear in mind that there are AI agents, there's low code. So once you get the basis for this infrastructure in place, and you need to work with partners to do that, your ability to start to develop new capabilities as things change and reuse components is accelerated. So your time to value, especially around new, is significantly reduced. There's a lot of work to get into that, and education is the first thing to think about. Yeah, I mean, this is a list of colleagues in SOCTIM, not necessarily up to speed with all of this, but it's areas where we need to do some more research and support the sector to move into these areas. These are some suggestions for me of areas we need to get more educated on, maybe do some research pieces on, or briefs or whatever. But again, from my perspective, the whole point of SOCTIM, your SOCTIM members, tell us what you want. Let us know the sort of things you want us to prioritize on and to think about. And that's the whole point. We have regional meetings, things can be presented. We can bring in partners who can present and discuss some of these things and have some of those things more bespoke to what we need as opposed to just what they want to tell you. So thanks for listening. I hope you found that useful and informative. And if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can contact me directly via LinkedIn or dylan.roberts@soctim.net. Depends how long it takes me to get back, but I will get back. at some point. Maybe we can start some conversations on LinkedIn or wherever. So that's it. So thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that's a taster of things to come.